just want to say real quick, God is great. God is very great. God is so great, He has blessed us with our first message today by Mr. David Hope entitled, Sell the Sizzle, Not the Steak.
Thank you, Mr. McGarvey, and a great song service. Tell you what, it takes a lot of nerve. He's only been out of school, a year now, high school, and he does the song leading without accompanist, and a great job. We're very proud of him, I'll tell you, and we're proud of all of our young people that we have here. We're so fortunate here in Tulsa to have so many young people so dedicated and help out. Good to see everybody here today. 50 years ago this February, I began to become self-employed in the cleaning and restoration business. I knew nothing about selling, except I knew the fact that some people could sell snow to an Eskimo. They could sell fleas to an old flea bag dog. So there's something to selling. I realized that, there's certain keys there, and over the years I learned some things, and actually the title here came from an article I had many years ago. As some of the older, anyway, I learned certain principles of marketing and sales and advertising, things of that nature. But a lot of the older people who have been around for a long time are familiar with the initials HWA. Anybody not know what HWA stands for? Anyway, Herbert W. Armstrong was the founder of the Radio Church of God years ago, and then the Worldwide Church, and for many years, which some of us were members of for a long time. But he was in advertising and sales before he got into the ministry, so that really helped him. It helped the work and the magazines they put out and the articles and things of that nature. You could tell that he had his hand in a lot of the early days of that and the marketing of it. So today I'm going to discuss a couple of principles. There's a lot more, but anyway, two big principles that a lot of people use that will help, I think, and I know it does, to help the lost and dying world to overcome and to come in. And the principles are, in short, features and benefits. Some people are really good about selling benefits, some selling principles or features. But sometimes selling features are good, you need features. But if you don't understand the features, what good does it do? And some people you can sell benefits, but if they don't understand and are not familiar enough with it to know what the features are, they say, well, you're lying to me or whatever. But anyway, sometimes it takes the both of them. And I had an experience this week that kind of reminded me of that. I didn't have that down even thinking about it until after I had my notes done. But I had a doctor's appointment this week with my skin doctor. I had about 6 months ago, I had a place on my leg that was because it was after shoot of knee surgery, and a little old spot where they clamped the machine on, to cut your bones into and all that, never did heal totally up. So I had to go to a skin doctor, and it got big. And in the meantime, he prescribed compression socks. He saw my feet, my legs, and some of you are the same way, you get the edema and you swell up and all that. And he prescribed me some compression socks, and I used them for about a week or so, but it was so much trouble, it hurt to get them on, and my wife was more than glad to help me, but I quit using them. Well, this week I had a 6-month checkup. He wanted to check my skin and all that, and he said, yeah, that's okay, this is coming along pretty good, but he said, you really need to wear those compression socks. And I said, well, yeah, I did for a while. And then he gave me, the features. The socks were the feature, but then he gave me the benefits of doing that. He said, and I knew it would help keep your feet and legs from swelling. He said, but it helps to keep your legs and feet from swelling. You're not so tired all day, And he said, but what really got me, he said that your veins have valves in them, and after a period of time, the pressure and all of that, and overactive, these valves go out on you, and then it just goes out into your skin. I thought, wow, So he gave me some benefits of wearing it. 'Cause I don't want to have that problem. So I've got them on today. I put them on myself, all by myself, and put them on. And so if I jump up and down, it's not because of my other doctor, my family doctor. I'm getting into a lot of stuff I probably don't need to. But 90 days ago when I had my diabetic checkup, my doctor said, boy, you ought to be jumping up and down for joy. He said, your A1C is down to such and such for the second time. And he said again, you ought to be jumping up and down for joy. And I thought he was serious, so I did. He said, well, you don't really have to do that. But anyway, us old folks, all we do is go to the doctor and then talk about it. Anyway, but get into a few examples. A lot of people say that God's laws, God's commandments, and God's instructions are negative. You probably have heard that. Well, this is negative. You don't do this, don't do that, but they don't really understand the benefits of doing God's laws and God's principles and things that God says. I'm going to start off going over to a very, very familiar scripture where most of you look when you want to look for the original 10 Commandments, and over in Exodus 20th chapter. And I'm going to break in. Owen got my water, the one that I had spiked in there, so I have to take one of these little ones. Somebody else has already had it. Anyway, Exodus 20th chapter. Well, that's good. Glad you didn't get that one, Owen. Exodus 20th chapter, and breaking in on verse 8 through 11. Remember the Sabbath day to keep it holy. 6 days shall you labor and do all your work. But the seventh day is the Sabbath of the Lord your God. In it you shall do no work, you shall not do any work, nor shall your son nor your daughter, your manservant or your maidservant, nor your cattle, nor your stranger that is within your gates. For 6 days the Lord made heaven and earth, the sea, and all that in them that is, and rested the seventh day. Wherefore the Lord blessed the Sabbath day and hallowed it. And that's so important. This is not new. You'll go to sleep, I'll read too much of that. But here's one with a sizzler to it, benefit. I'm calling the sizzler the benefit. And over a couple of pages over in my Bible, Exodus 23, verse 12, says, 6 days shall you do your work, and on the seventh day you shall rest. That, and here's the sizzler, that your ox and your ass may rest, and the son of your handmaid and the stranger and that the stranger may be refreshed. I never thought about being refreshed. I thought, for a long time, well, we can't do anything on Saturday. I can't pay the paper boy. I can't do this, can't do that. And it was, even to me at times in the early days, it was negative. And I began to find out the benefits of it. And we can take all of the 10 Commandments and look at it and put, features and benefits and, things of that nature. And we could spend all day up here hypothetically talking about what's the benefit or the consequence of committing adultery or stealing or this or that. We can do that, but there definitely are benefits by keeping God's word, God's instruction. And here's some more commandments with benefits. Exodus 20, verse 12. And we're getting in. Honor your father and mother. And we've heard that, and we hear that. And that's one of the things, probably the main thing I could recommend to young people, if it could come across without sounding like preaching. Honor your father and your mother, that, here's the benefit, here's the scissor, that your days may be long upon the land which the Lord your God gives you. So that means if you're going to live longer, hypothetically, well, not hypothetically, you will. I mean, there are circumstances, war comes along or other things, and a child can be obedient to the parent and still die. It's not just an absolute 100%, but your chances are so much greater by doing that. It says, which the Lord has give you. Anyway, that you may live longer. And here's in Ephesians, the 6th chapter, and I think Sean Witt mentioned some of these verses here a couple of weeks ago in his message in Ephesians 6. But anyway, 1 through 17, like I said, here's another of the features. Children, Ephesians 6:1, children, obey your parents in the Lord, for this is right. Where it is. Honor your father and mother, which is a first commandment with promise. So even in the New Testament, it backs up the fact that honoring your mother and father is definitely still carried over into the New Testament, even with a promise. That's the first commandment with a promise. Verse 3, that it may be well with you. You obey your parents. How many kids out here in gangs that are getting shot and getting murdered and all of that because they're not obeying their mother and father or honoring their parents? They're not living very long, and we see so many times on TV where young people, because of the actions that they're living and the lifestyle that they're living, that it may be well with you and that you may live long on the earth. So even in the Apostle Paul tells the Ephesians that. You know, this is still a good idea to honor God, to honor your parents. And you fathers, provoke not your children to wrath, but bring them up in the nurture and admonition of the Lord. Servants, be obedient to them that are your masters according to the flesh, with fear and trembling, and singleness of your heart, as unto Christ. And our jobs should be as if we're worshiping God. You know, we're working for God. If you're your boss, you're not going to steal from your boss because you're going to steal from God, from Jesus. Not with eye service as men pleasers, but as the servants of Christ, doing the will of God from the heart. So our job should be from the heart, with goodwill doing service as unto the Lord and not unto men. And listen to this, knowing that whatsoever good thing any man does or any woman does, the same shall be he receive of the Lord, whether he be bond or free. So it's almost like some people say karma. You know, you do good, you get good back. You do bad, you get bad. I asked a friend of mine one time, because he was always talking about karma, and asked him where that came from and how he got that and all that. And I don't know. He just did. He just tried to be good to people because he thought karma, you know, what goes around comes around. And anyway, and you masters do the same thing. Let me make sure I'm not going to digress too much. And you masters do the same thing unto them, forbearing, threatening, knowing that your master is also in heaven, or also is in heaven, neither is there respect of persons with him. Finally, my brethren, be strong in the Lord and in the power of his might. Put on the whole armor of God. And we've heard this many a time from this same pulpit and at the Feast of Tabernacles. And I remember one message that Matthew Steele gave at the feast one year along that line, and others too, but this particular one, he was talking about that the shield being all bent up and caved and rickety, you know, from being in the battle too much. I never realized it that way, but he was talking about sometimes your shield is really banged up. Anyway, put on the whole armor of God that you may be able to stand the wiles of the devil. Put on the whole armor of God. That was kind of like my wife and I for a long time were members of the Gold Wing Motorcycle Club, and they disbanded, I think, a year ago. They were in business 40-some years. But their motto was all the gear all the time, all the helmets, you know, you always wear your helmet. You wear your body armor all the time. You don't just once in a while. And, you know, for a reason. And my wife and I found out one time why it was necessary to have the armor. And this was before we become a member of their club, and found out that they recommend a lot of this stuff. We were going to, some of you in here, a lot of you know Del Murphy and Susan down in Missouri, and they were living down at Bolivar, was it Bolivar? I think it was. We went down one week in our motorcycle, and we were going to give a message there at the motel there at Bolivar. And Fran and I had been to the Murphy's house once before in the nighttime, and it was out in the country, and we thought we pretty well had a way out there, but had the GPS on too, and I'm not real technical savvy, but anyway, but we had the GPS right up here, and it had us turning off about a block before you get to his house. And it was freshly graveled road. I mean, big gravel. It wasn't packed or anything. And motorcycle riders don't like gravel. They don't like sand. They don't like mud. And we were driving down there, not going very fast, 15, 20 miles an hour. And the bike was very unstable. And I told Fran, I said, Fran, I'm going to pull over here and let you get off, and I'm going to drive on down to the end of down here, and you can walk down, and we'll get on and go. Well, we had not much more than said that, and boy, I mean, the bike just really went wild and went down on a slide, threw Fran and me both off of it. And but anyway, we found, and Fran ended up all skin up and a bruise on her and all that, and I was a little bit sore from it. But we realized all the gear all the time, you never know when you might need it. And same way with the armor of God. You never know when we're going to need some of the armor of God, and we really need, I think, put it on every day before we go out and before we leave the house, or even if we're not going to leave the house, we ought to put that armor of God on. Anyway, where was I? Verse 11, 12. For we wrestle not against flesh and blood, but against principalities and powers, against rulers of the darkness of the world, against spiritual wickedness in high places. We never know where we're going to run into evil. We need some way or another different portions of that armor on. And just like Fran and I figured out, we wrestle not against the wind and the sun and the rain and all that. We wrestle against 18-wheelers coming into your lane, coming down to Albuquerque. We're subject to all kinds of things. Wherefore, take to you the whole armor of God, that you may be able to withstand in the evil day, having done all to withstand. So, putting on the armor of God is the thing that we should do. But here, the reason is that he said, and the sizzler of it, that you may be able to withstand. We want to be able to withstand. We want to be strong. We want to not get bitter and angry and all that. Stand, therefore, having your loins girt about with truth, you know, the Word of God, having on the breastplate of righteousness, and your feet shod with the preparation of the gospel of peace. Above all, taking the shield of faith, wherewith, here it is, the reason why, wherewith you shall be able to quench all the fiery darts of the wicked. So there's things we should do, benefits or commands or whatever, and then or features, I mean, and there's benefits from it. Proverbs 3rd chapter, I'm going to read part of it, 1 through 16. Some of this sounds familiar because it's repeated in other places in the Bible. My son, forget not my law, but let your heart keep my commandments. For, now here's the benefits, for length of days and long life, where do we hear that at? Length of days and long life, and peace shall they add unto you. Let not mercy and truth forsake you. Bind them about your neck. Write them upon the table of your heart. So shall you find, so here's another benefit, so shall you find favor and good understanding in the sight of God and man. Trust in the Lord with all your heart, and lean not into your own understanding. In all of your ways acknowledge him. Why? And he shall direct your paths. Cause and effect, so to speak. Verse 8, it shall be health to your navel, that's another benefit, and marrow to your bones. Honor the Lord with your substance and with the first fruits of your increase. Why? Here's again. So shall your barns be filled with plenty, and your presses shall burst out with new wine. So there's tremendous benefits by serving God. It's not just a negative situation. Verse 11, my son, despise not the chastening of the Lord. Now, not many of us like that. Neither be weary of his correction. Because for whom the Lord loves, he corrects, even as a father the son in whom he delights. Here's a few more features. Happy is the man that finds wisdom, the man that gets understanding, for the merchandise of it is better than the merchandise of silver, and gain than that of fine gold. She is more precious, now they got wisdom as a female, she is more precious than rubies, and all the things you can desire cannot be, or not compared to her. Length of days is in her right hand. And you could say, well, in some ways, well, maybe we're in better shape because we don't eat some of the unclean foods. I don't know, maybe that's just a spin-off of it. There's so many things. A tranquil heart, tranquil mind, and attitude with love and joy, and like Scripture says in places, that, a merry heart's like a good medicine, and, the other things dries the bones. But anyway, length of days are in her hand, and you could come up with all kinds of things. And in her left hand, riches and honor. And before I get out of here, I'm about ready to wind down here. My wife and I were at one of our daughter's houses several years ago. It was on this particular son-in-law's 40th birthday, I think. I don't know, one of his birthdays. And they live way off out in the country, and they have a lot of friends. And they on his birthday party, there was, I don't know, what do you think, around 30, 40 people there, people outside, people inside in the living room, people in the kitchen talking, and kind of like the old comic strips they had in the news. We called them funny papers years ago when I was a kid. They'd have a family in here, and somebody with a caption up here what they said, and somebody with a caption what they said. Anyway, but that's kind of what it reminded me of. And I was sitting down at a table, and they have a table, built-in table. It's kind of like a lot of people have a built-in bar, up high. Well, they have a table. It's the right table size and table width too. And I love the thing. That's why Fran and I'd get up in the mornings before anybody else and do our Bible study in there before everybody get up, and it's just the right size. But anyway, I happened to be sitting there, and a couple of women were talking over there, and I wasn't eavesdropping on them, but I couldn't help but hear what they were saying. I was sitting there sipping on my wine, probably the second glass or whatever. But anyway, I just wasn't active in a conversation. And a couple of ladies were standing up there talking, and they were talking about religion, talking about, I think in some ways what I gathered, the hypocrisy of a lot of the religion they see on TV, that these people are out here for money and that, and the ministers will run around on somebody's wife and all that, and I didn't necessarily want to hear it, but I wouldn't get up and walk off either and walk into somebody else's conversation. And one of the ladies looked down there and said, what do you think about it, David? You look like you have something to say. And I said, well, I couldn't help but overhear. I said, but I pulled out my keys and I said, if everybody in the world would keep the basic 10 commandments of the Bible, we wouldn't have to use these. Just a simple answer. And she was just absolutely dumbfounded. She just said, and I don't remember her husband's name now, Roy or Bob or something. But anyway, she said, come over here, listen to what he had to say. And I didn't think it was all that profound. But really, if everybody in the world, or even in Oklahoma basically, didn't steal and do, bad things, we wouldn't have to do this, wear a hose in your pocket. But anyway, we can go through all of God's 10 commandments, and we can assign features and benefits to them or call them whatever we want to do, but there are pros and cons to each one of them, and do the same thing to most other scriptures in there. But sometimes it's best to sell the sizzle and not the steak. It's best to sell the benefits if you can do that, and not just the idea of the command or whatever. And the benefits, as we know, are tremendously valuable. One of my son-in-laws asked me one time, I think last time we were out there, he knew that we were part of the old church there for long years, and he said, David, with all of in the past, all the tithes and offerings you gave to that group, and some people felt that they were misusing it, said, do you regret, or do you wish you hadn't done that? Would you do it all over again? And I said, I'll tell you what, I said, most of us that donated, that gave our tithes and offerings and all that, I said, we could see the benefits of people coming into the church, people reading the Plain Truth magazine, listening to the broadcast, and coming in for articles, and we've seen people change. We saw our local church in Tulsa grow from about 150 people when we started. How many did they have, Steve, when you started? Roughly? Anyway, 150 people, and they grew up to 600 when we left. But it was worth every penny of it. Every penny of it, because there may even be some of you out here now that's a direct result of Steve's tithe money, or Lucille's been here for a long time. She's 92, 93. Lucille, don't get it wrong, she's probably listening today. She's not feeling well, but I'm sure even Lucille's money went a long ways, and Lawrence Gregory and some of the people who've been around here a lot longer. Probably the reason I'm here, maybe the reason Steve and some of the rest of us are here. So, the tithing and offering is not a burden. It's not a burden at all. It's a privilege to give. And but anyway, when we have a chance, people get too negative about the Bible. Let's sell the sizzle. Let's just sell the benefits of God's way of life, because it is tremendously. Like I said, we've been, 55 years, something like that. And we were young. A lot of you were young, and I cannot imagine my life had it not been with God a part of us like He is with you guys too. So anyway, God is good, and let's sell the sizzle.